Hello and welcome. It is another rousing edition of the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. I'm Matt Michaels. Hello, Brad Trinago.
Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm doing well. We kind of have a pod that is up your alley, as we have a whole bunch of Mizzou women's basketball players to introduce you to during the course of the next hour-ish. I mean, we don't keep time.
Right.
Kind of like soccer. We don't really keep time. It just happens, and then if we need extra minutes, we add them on.
Well, that's at the pro level. Of course, in college soccer, they do have the clock, and you do occasionally get some buzzer beaters in there.
And the oddest thing about college soccer to me forever, and I understand why they do it, is having the public address announcer count down from 10 at the end of a half. It's extremely dramatic.
It's a different element. I mean, it really puts a lot on the PA guy. Or gal, whatever, man or woman, whatever. However you identify those counting seconds are important.
I will say that the podcast is powered by Shelter Insurance, ranked number one in customer satisfaction for auto insurance in the Central Region by J.D. Power. 6 of the last 7 years, we're your shield, we're your shelter. And Tiger fans say aloha to Hawaiian Bros, where the island-inspired flavors are positively delicious. You'll love favorites like Huli Huli Chicken, Luau Pig, and the delectable Dole Soft Serve. Hawaiian Bros is just south of campus on Grindstone Parkway, or order at hawaiianbros.com. We'll have football and other goings-on to talk about, but since we have 6 fresh, good conversations with Mizzou women's basketball players, it's time to get ready. It's a few short weeks, really, from here when we'll see Mizzou women's hoops in its first action on the 4th of November, like everybody. Just about everybody.
Yeah, pretty much everybody. And that's the first official game. It's actually on the road at Vermont. Mizzou, on the women's side, is going to play a public exhibition game, which is not something they've always done. They would have, like most teams, they would have some scrimmages that were more closed door and things like that. They are going to have one at home against Truman coming up on October 29th. So looking forward to checking that out. And if you want to get an early look at the Tigers before the games officially start, you can see them there.
Yeah, very cool. So we have returners, newcomers, a whole mess of them to bring to you right now, and one who could take a significant step forward, and she's already been pretty good for the Tigers in her freshman season, is the sophomore out of Grain Valley Mo. Why don't you enjoy a few good minutes here with Grace Slaughter?
6'2" sophomore from Grain Valley Mo. Grace Slaughter is with us here on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. SEC all-freshman team a season ago. What was that experience like for you to go from, playing at a high level, a high classification of high school ball, but still going from that to, the SEC against the eventual national champions and opponents like that? What was that like for you?
I would just have to say I'm super thankful to have some vets out there like Haley Frank and Mama that just really helped, calm any nerves I had, but also were there just to ask questions. And I mean, Frankie sent me a text, multiple times before games, just, giving me peace of mind. And it was super fun just to go out there and also see that these are also women's basketball players. They're not just people you see on TV. They're actually real, and you can play against them and you can hit threes against them and they'll still block your shot. But I mean, it was a blast to just kind of get to travel, get to get your feet under you and just play with such a fun group of girls.
You ended up, 4th in the SEC, in fact, in minutes per game. So you got a lot of opportunities, scored nearly 12 points a contest. Was there a moment or a game for you during that season where you had that, like you were talking about, they're human. I can go get buckets against them too. Was there a specific moment that you remember?
Non-con, I kind of SLU stands out to me. I know we didn't get the win that game, but I would say that was just very, very beginning of our season. Only I want to say first couple of games and it being our first away game. Just coming out and playing strong offensively. It was okay, this is college, but you can still do what you've been doing. And then not our conference play, I'd probably have to say South Carolina at home. I just remember having a 3 on Cardoso and that just I don't know, I remember and having a close game with them. That was just so much fun, and the atmosphere, it was just a blast. And I think that was just kind of calming to be okay, you're playing really high level basketball, but you can still play at this level.
Grace Slaughter joining us here on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. You come from a Mizzou family, a lot of family members that have also previously worn the black and gold. What's it been like to see their reaction? I mean, they came to pretty much every game. You had family members there, home and away. What was it like to see it through their eyes, I guess, to experience this journey?
Super exciting. I mean, I just have absolutely loved being able to have my family here. And that was, another big reason besides just being close with the coaching staff. And, Mizzou being my dream school, being able to have my family come to every game. So, having them there is just amazing. And, being able to, when I was young, I looked up to lots of Mizzou women's basketball players. It was a treat to come to a football game or a women's basketball game. So to actually be in that position I looked up to when I was younger is just super special. And I feel really blessed that I get the opportunity to make an impact, hopefully, on other younger players and on other family members. And, I just know they're proud of me, get to talk about it at family reunions. And I want to say at one game over Christmas break, I might have had close to 60 family members in the stand. So, it's just been a blast and I've really enjoyed it.
Well, you mentioned Haley Frank and Mama Dembele earlier, and they've, moved on to other things. So how has the dynamic of this year's team been different compared to last year?
Yeah, I would say that the dynamic has just shifted. We've had, some other players step up vocally and even just, have some leaders that are more physical leaders or have leadership through their actions. But I would just say that, I think a lot of us feel more comfortable, especially we were so young last year, 5 freshmen played pretty good minutes. Just, I've even talked with Shrek and Hannah Linthicum about it's so much more calming coming into a season and even a summer, just kind of understanding what it's going to look like. And I think that's helped all of us be a little bit more vocal and step up into hopefully just some leadership roles on and off the court and being those calming factors for some of the other newcomers coming in.
We had a road trip last season to Kansas State, and your family was kind enough to have pretty much the whole travel party in for dinner. Yeah. And you have 2 of the biggest dogs I've ever seen in my entire life. So how are the dogs doing these days?
They're doing great. Lola is 7, so she's getting up there, but she still runs and plays with the younger one, Lucy. And funny story, I actually took Nia Wilson's dog home with me last weekend, and it's
And it survived? Did it survive?
It survived, but it's 8 pounds at most.
Well, and for perspective, your dogs are about 200? Are they
they're 180,
180
6'2"
pounds.
on their hind legs, my stats for whatever reason. But it was actually super funny, and they had a blast. And I think Nia's dog was, on the ride home, it was slumped the whole way. So it was a blast, but it was good. It was pretty funny.
I'm glad all the pets have gotten through the off season safe and sound.
Yeah.
Let's get to some basketball coming up soon. Best of luck to you this season.
Thank you.
That's Grace Lauder.
It just sets up she's going to be so important to what this unit will become this season, because I can see her, again, as a 6'2" guard/wing in the middle of everything Missouri does.
Oh, absolutely. It averaged more than 11 points per game last year, and I think it speaks to her reliability that she led Mizzou and almost led the entire SEC in terms of minutes played. She was out there more than 33 minutes a game, so she was someone that even as a true freshman, Coach Pinchton felt like she could rely on to be out there. And when you have folks like, Haley Frank and Mama Dembele, Abby Feit played a lot off the bench at a similar position to where Grace Slaughter plays. So I think that there's that production, that workload on the floor, that's not going to change.
Yeah, and maybe an actual workload for our next guest, because she spent so much time doing interesting things to rehab during the part of last season. I'm glad you tipped me off. You'll hear about it when you enjoy this conversation with Tiger guard, the Columbia native, Averi Kroenke. Here with a returning Missouri Tiger, the Columbia native, Averi Kroenke, is with us right now. And we were just talking before we went on here. Brad Trinago spilled the beans, or is it the marbles, about how you got your foot feeling good after last season. You know how to pick up marbles with your feet now, is that right?
Yeah, I do. If there's ever a toe marble picking up contest, sign me up, and I'm sure I can beat anybody.
I'm sure it had to be, quite a disappointment for you to have on the eve of the season an injury like that happen. So how did you attack your rehab in the way that got you to the point that you could be engaged with your teammates and also engaged with what you had to do to get healthy?
Yeah, it was really heartbreaking, just how it happened, when it happened. But, I kind of told myself, I was like, okay, you can have this first 24, 48 hours to feel bad for yourself. And then after that, you got to move on. Every day's a new day. My teammates needed me to be there for them energy-wise, to be a voice kind of on the sideline if I saw anything. And I knew me turning inwards as being selfish for myself. I wanted to be there to help my team and keep the mood light.
What did that teach you, being able to be a vocal leader, although not involved with the game directly, involved in your own way?
Yeah, so I never want it to be that way, but you learn a lot from watching on the sidelines. And I mean, I got 32 games of me being right there in the action, watching everything. So I think that's a great way to learn from it. And then I think it just taught me, when I saw something, to stand up and be like, okay, hey, this is what I'm seeing. I think it grew me as a leader for sure.
Do you feel like you and some of your other returning teammates have grown in that area to where, you can take in kind of these new faces to the team and integrate them more easily because you're able to speak up when you see something and have that trust within yourselves?
Yeah, so we had a lot of, I guess, underclassmen, but we're becoming upperclassmen who got a lot of minutes last year. Judd, Shrek, Grace Slaughter. And so now we're the people who kind of know the system, know what we're doing, and it's on us to kind of, keep the culture, keep our standard where it needs to be.
What makes that exciting for you as an individual player?
Yeah, so I think we have a great group of returners that I'm really excited about and a great group of newcomers, and I think we're going to surprise a lot of people, and I'm looking forward to what we can put out on the court.
All right, so I mentioned marbles. You also said that you have been able to scoot on the beach. I don't know if I'd go off-roading on, that little, leg scooter thing. What led you to do it? You just had to get some sunshine?
Well, I will say, we were in Daytona, and that beach is known to be very hard. Like, trucks drive on it all the time.
True.
And I tried crutches. I said, this isn't for me. My arms were getting too tired. I was still in my cast at that point, so I had a trash bag tied up around my leg. So I was like, let's try the scooter. And once I got it to the hard part, I pushed that thing everywhere, so it worked.
Didn't end up with sand in the cast or anything?
No, hopefully not. I don't think so.
Hey, everything all came out very well in the end. As you prepared in this off-season for what is now, your preparation as a team for the season, what are some of the things individually that you've been working on to try to get your game elevated?
Yeah, so, for 6 months, all I did was stationary shooting and form shooting, and I think that's really helped expand my range and helped me become a better three-point shooter, which, if you remember from my freshman year, is something I really needed to work on, so I'm excited for that. And just kind of like what we've talked about, my growth as just like an individual and in a leadership. Running the point guard position, you got to be able to be vocal and know how to run the offense, and I think I learned a lot of that from watching last year.
When it comes to evolving a shot, is it focus on the form? Is it trying to get a quicker release? How do you work on that as an outside shooter?
Yeah, so for me in the beginning, it was just a lot of form, mainly because that was all I could do. I'd stand on my scooter and I'd make 100 form shots at practice. And so then when it was me coming back, it was being able to expand my form from 5 feet out to 25 feet. And then other than that, just getting up a lot of reps. I truly believe hard work pays off in a lot of aspects.
As you guys advance towards the start of this season, what are some of the characteristics you think this team is going to have right from the jump that define your style of play?
Yeah, so we've worked a lot on our conditioning and getting out and running, and I'm super excited for our transition game, being able to run, but I'm also really excited for our defensive game. We've worked a lot on being able to defend, being able to rotate, and I think we have a lot of really good defenders who we're going to be able to do some more run and jump, be able to put a lot of pressure on the other team.
You maybe don't like the running as much when it's happening, but you know what it's going to pay off for, right?
Yes, for sure.
Is there a particular length that is the toughest to run right now since you're doing all this conditioning?
So I always prefer the quicker one, so deep 4s, deep 6s. Anything over a 6 is when I start to get tired, so I'd say our 10s are probably our hardest for me.
So you're a burst burst athlete.
I'd rather get it short and quick is my kind of
get it over
idea.
with.
Yeah.
No, that sounds pretty good. Well, yeah, you're going to have to do a lot of it this season, of course, on the floor with the Missouri Tigers as they get going. Averi Kroenke, we appreciate you taking a few minutes with us here on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. Can't wait to see what the season holds for you. Best of luck.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Don't trust me to have my lower digits in any sort of shape that Averi's are after picking up marbles all off season, but I think everybody expected that she could have an outsized kind of sophomore leap last season, and it was just simply arrested by that injury. And now she gets the chance to do the things that I think a lot of folks around the program are very hopeful that Averi Kroenke can do on the floor for this team.
Well, there were a couple big injuries for this team last year that kind of derailed things as they ran into SEC play. A little bit later on, we'll hear from another young lady who was the starting post who got hurt, Angie Ngalakulondi. But Kroenke's injury just before the season was going to start was a huge factor, too. I mean, she was someone who, if she wasn't going to be a starter, she was someone who was going to play a lot of minutes on the perimeter for the Tigers. She just provides a lot of little things that she does really well. One of the best perimeter defenders, one of the best rebounders from a guard spot for this team, and losing the toughness that Kroenke and Ngalakulondi provided last year really stung for that group. Having both of them back, it's going to be a really critical aspect for this team as they try to move forward and make some strides in the SEC.
One of the veterans on this team will be a true newcomer, but it's not like she hasn't been through the wars. An all-Missouri Valley Conference first-teamer, a former Southern Illinois Saluki, and now going to be playing down low for the Missouri Tigers, maybe a bit of wing action too. Hailing from Wichita, Kansas, why don't we introduce you to Laniah Randle.
This episode of Mizzou Storytellers on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast is brought to you by Sophia's and Addison's Restaurants. Sophia's and Addison's Restaurants are great local spots to visit before or after all Mizzou home games. Addison's has 2 locations in Southwest and downtown Columbia and features over 20 beers on tap, including local brewers and, of course, their famous Nachos Bianco. So remember, before or after the game, stop by Addison's.
A newcomer to this year's Mizzou women's basketball roster, a 5'11 senior from Wichita, Laniah Randle, who was all Missouri Valley last year at Southern Illinois, put up some great numbers there, 18 points, 9 rebounds per game. So what were you looking for when you entered the transfer portal and ultimately wound up at Mizzou?
When I entered into the portal, I was just looking for a bigger conference. I wanted to play against the biggest and bestest teams, and I just wanted to find a place where it felt like home, and that's pretty much it.
Break down different parts of your game. So the 18 points, obviously, you had some success scoring the ball. What are some of your strengths you feel like offensively?
I feel like I'm a great mid-range shooter. I feel like I'm great with attacking the basket. So a lot last year I was a 2-level scorer, so I drove and shot the mid-range jumper a lot, but this year I'm planning on being a 3-level scorer and stretching out a little bit more for the 3. But yeah, that's pretty much my game.
I watched a preseason video the team posted on social media, and one of the quotes that stood out to me anyway was, "I like defense."
Yes.
And that was something I like to hear. So what is it about defending that you like?
I don't know. I just feel like defense is just like, you're going hard, you're gritty. I'm just like real aggressive, and I just like going for steals for my team. And I mean, defense can turn into offense. So like you can get a steal, go the other way. You can kick it, get your teammate a shot, or you can steal it and get a shot. So it's just like a extra possession for yourself, and I just like defense. So, yeah.
And then on the rebounding front, I mean, 9 rebounds per game, under 6 feet tall. So what are some of the keys to getting rebounds, even though you're typically not going to be the tallest player on the floor?
I feel like for me personally, I just outwork, and I just like, how can I say this? I just like outwork and just read the court, I guess. Like I just have a feel like for where the ball is gonna land. You just gotta like outquick your defender, and you just gotta be a dog and have grit. Just go for it.
The former dog Saluki from Southern Illinois, Laniah Randle, joining us here on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. So did you grow up in Wichita, or was it? So tell us about life in Wichita.
Yeah, I grew up in Wichita. It was pretty fun. I mean, it's nothing too much. It's nothing too crazy, but Wichita, I don't really know how to explain it because I've lived there, so it's kind of just like nothing to me, honestly. But yeah, I don't know. It was good. I don't know how to explain it.
Sure. What was part of when you were in the transfer portal? Were you looking for somewhere else that was also reasonably close to home? Was that part of the incentive for Mizzou?
Yeah. When I got into the transfer portal, I was at my old school. I was like 8 hours away, so I was looking to be somewhere closer to home, but also if I wasn't close to home and I was like somewhere, I really wanted to just be close to home and somewhere that I genuinely liked. And with Mizzou, it just so happened that I loved the school and they were close to home, so it was just like the perfect fit. But yeah. What
have you liked about Mizzou so far?
Just how it feels like home. Like it's just it's just a family here. You know, they're very welcoming, like just upfront and honest with you, and they just have so much love for like me and everybody here. So I just love that.
Well, it's an interesting family dynamic because I've seen a couple practices, and you guys get pretty rough on each other for being family members. But
Yeah.
how have practices been so far?
Practice has been good. Yeah, we're all competitive. Like when we hit the court and we're going against each other, it's no like we're friends off the court, but on the court we are not friends. Like we just want to push each other. So, you know, because when we're going against other teams, they're going to be like on us hard. So we want to kind of just give that roughness on each other so we can prepare for like other teams that we play. So we're just pushing each other so we can be better.
So your dad was a college football player. Your uncle was not just a college football player
Yeah.
at Oklahoma State. He ended up playing for the Dallas
Yeah.
Cowboys. Does that family football background, do you feel like that's translated to you a little bit on the basketball court?
Yeah, I guess you would say like with me being aggressive and stuff. Like I grew up like going to football games, watching football, and yeah, I think I'm just a real sporty person. So and like IQ. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
If this year's Mizzou team is going to be successful, what do you think needs to happen?
I feel like we just have to be more gritty, like more aggressive. Good with our defense has to be better. I feel like we have to be a real communicative like team, and yeah, other than that, I think we'll be good.
Laniah Randle, welcome to Mizzou. Thanks for your
Thank you
time.
so much.
Obviously, when you come in as a senior or above, you've got an expectation, right? You're going to come here. You're hopefully going to play a lot of minutes. What are you kind of looking for, Brad, from what Laniah can bring to the table to this group?
So last year at Southern Illinois, 18 points, 9 rebounds, 2 steals per game. I'm not sure at this level if that type of production is necessarily going to be expected, but I mean, you just look at her, the muscle that she's going to be able to bring. And yeah, she's under 6 feet tall, but she has the ability to really make a difference in terms of the power that she provides. I mean, her uncle, some Mizzou fans from a certain vintage, at least in my age or so, might remember Joseph Randle, the running back for Oklahoma State and the Dallas Cowboys. They're related, and you can tell from Laniah's body type. So she's certainly going to be able to bring that power. Like she mentioned in that conversation, she's also working to expand her game and expand her range a little bit to fit some of the style that we see from Mizzou women's basketball a lot. So that could help her grow. But yeah, I think she feels like a really good fit at a power forward spot. And I mentioned, some of the strengths that Kroenke and Ngalakulondi are going to bring, almost like newcomers on the court anyway. I mean, Kroenke didn't play a game last year because of injury. Ngalakulondi only played a handful before she got hurt in late November last season. So I think you add Randle too, and those three could really bring a different dimension to this team than what we saw last year.
So we have 3 that we've introduced you to before this season. There are 3 more to go. Stay with us. We've got football to cover. We've got everything else going on around Mizzou Athletics. But first, we'll give you an introduction to our friends at Shelter Insurance.
This episode of Mizzou Storytellers on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast is brought to you by Shelter Insurance. Ranked number 1 in customer satisfaction for auto insurance in the Central Region by J.D. Power 5 out of the last 6 years. We're your shield. We're your shelter.
And the podcast is also powered by Socket Fiber, which is now available. It's the fastest, most reliable internet. Combined with local service and simple billing, contact Socket today for voice data and internet services for your home and business. 1-800-SOCKET3 or visit socket.net. And a reminder that Sophia's and Addison's restaurants are great local spots to visit before or after all Mizzou home games. Addison's has 2 locations in Southwest and downtown Columbia and features over 20 beers on tap, including local brewers and, of course, the famous Nachos Bianco. So remember, before or after the game, stop by Addison's.
Absolutely. Looking forward to some delicious nachos at some point and some delicious basketball. I'll be honest with you, I couldn't think of a connection to either the Socket or the Addisons
I
this
just
week.
leave it for you to go into the depths of your addled mind and find something, and I guess we don't bat 1,000 here.
Yeah, we're approaching that crossover season, which is great if you're a fan of Mizzou sports, where you've got football still going on and basketball revving up. It's a great job we have. It's kind of a ridiculous job that we have, to be honest, to talk about college sports all day. But it is a little bit busy. Got a lot of stuff going on. We're looking forward to. We had these women's basketball interviews. We'll have some men's basketball interviews for you coming up in a future podcast. But a lot going on. I was not able to make that connection in the way that Socket Fiber makes such terrific internet connections. There it is.
You joker.
Saved it.
How did you? That's not really a save.
At the buzzer.
You just kind of walked around for a little bit and paced. It's like when you get the grandma on Family Feud, and grandma should have been buzzed 5 seconds ago, and they just let grandma because she's kind of saying things and she's kind of getting to the answer, and then she spurts something out. That's what you did.
Well, one of the differences when it comes to Family Feud, the other family members around grandma are usually a little more supportive than you are being right now, to be honest. And they're like, good answer. Okay. Before the inevitable X comes in. And
you just called it a save. I don't know if it's a save. It's like a half chance.
You're over there ragging on me.
Oh, right. Whatever. We've got 3 more women's basketball players for you to hear from, one of whom, as you mentioned earlier, Brad, it was a shame to not see her throughout the course of the season because I think the impact that we expect from Angie Ngalakulondi is pretty impressive. A 6'2" forward, known to be a rebounder, can also go score, and I just remember the game the Tigers played against UMass on the women's basketball court a couple of years ago and thinking, amongst players on a team that might have been a little bit overmatched, even though it was a good team that year, she was probably one of the standouts, and she decided to come to Missouri, and we didn't really get to see her due to injury. So let's reintroduce you now, if you will, to the native of Manchester, New Hampshire, and a grad student, Angie Ngalakulondi.
6'2" grad student from Manchester, New Hampshire, Angie Ngalakulondi, joining us now on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. Angie, for the first few games, it felt like as a Tiger, you were starting to get a feel for it at least, but the numbers weren't necessarily there. And then early on in the game at Virginia, it felt like things were really starting to click, and then you hurt your arm, and then you're out for the rest of the season. But how challenging was that for you to go through that injury and now that recovery process?
It was very difficult, but I had my teammates back, and I also had my coaches back, and that helped me get through it a lot, smoother. But I also just have to thank God for just helping me get through the process. I think we got even closer throughout this process, and it just helped me remain patient and just know that there's a reason why it happened and that I was going to get back and be the best, better than I was before. So that's what kept me going, really.
Obviously, you don't ever want that to end up happening, but was there a positive in the sense that you were able to have a front row seat to life in the SEC and see, okay, here are some aspects where I'm going to be able to contribute when I am healthy?
Yeah, I learned a lot. I saw a lot and I heard a lot, and I was really able to just learn from watching. And in my head, I was just always thinking and processing like, okay, this is how the SEC is moving. When I get back, this is what I'm going to have to do. So watching a lot, honestly, it helped me learn. And I feel like that's one of the best ways to learn. So I feel prepared. I feel ready. It was a long time watching, but I also know that I got a lot of knowledge. I got stronger during this time too. My upper body, my lower legs. So I was just working really hard, taking advantage of my time off, but also just trying to prepare myself for when I got back.
How do you mentioned, from a physical standpoint, in terms of strength, you feel like you're going to be stronger. What are some other aspects of your game that you feel like are going to be better now than they were before the injury?
Just a lot of watching that I did. I was able to know, like, okay, I need to get my rhythm. And how do I get my rhythm? Staying out of foul trouble. And how do I ask for the ball, the placement of the ball, and just knowing how everybody's playing defense and rebounding and just the strength of the SEC. So I feel like watching it, I'm just learning and watching a lot of film now, just like where I have to position myself and continuing to use my strength in the right way so that I do stay on the court as long as possible. Talking
with Mizzou forward Angie Ngalakulondi for a couple more minutes now. When you look at this year's team, of course, you're not going to have Haley Frank with you in the front court with this year's group, but folks like Laniah Randle have come in. I think of like Tree Heron coming in up front. How will this front court, you think, be effective this season?
I'm excited. We're very athletic, stronger, bigger. I feel like we're going to all tie together our strengths, and it's just going to all play out really well, and I'm excited to see it. Practice has already been like a little taste of, how we're going to be playing with each other, but going against each other right now, it's just like, wow, like I can't wait till we're all playing together on one team, utilizing what we can bring to the table. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, how have preseason practices been different and better this year compared to last year?
We go at it really hard. There's a lot of different personalities. Everybody just kind of brings who they are every single practice, but we really battle down there, and I think that's what makes it really special. We're able to really take it on each other, and every single day it's helping us get better. So we want to see each other do good, but we're definitely going at it every single day.
I mentioned New Hampshire native before that. Family came from the Congo, and it was an interesting journey that we talked about around this time last year on one of these podcasts. But how were you able to stay connected, I guess, with your family while you were going through that rehab process when they were, 1,000 miles away or whatever?
Yeah, it was difficult, but during the beginning process, I was able to go home for Christmas, so it allowed me to see my family and my friends. But everybody has been supportive throughout, my whole injury, and just sending me a lot of just blessings, love, and honestly, that's the best thing they could have done for being so far away. But I was good, just gaining a lot of love and support, but also having that here.
Season opener is going to be up in Vermont, which, for us, from the Mizzou perspective, not very common to go to the Northeast, but you have a lot of experience up there. I'm guessing you're pretty excited.
Yeah, I am super excited. Like, coming home game for me, a lot of family, friends planning on coming, and it's just going to feel good starting off on the road, but definitely, especially playing on the East Coast. So I'm just really excited. People are able to watch me from home and just be supportive, and everybody from Mizzou gets to go over there and see Vermont. But I'm really excited about that and getting a chance to go closer to home.
Can't wait to see you out there, Angie. Good luck this season.
Thank you.
Angie Ngalakulondi.
Again, it's like, okay, this is basically one of the last chances, right? So go out there and make the most of your opportunity. That's got to be the way that Angie attacks it. And I think this team could take on a completely different look if she is at what people expected her to be at when she was able to come to Columbia.
Well, it gives you another dimension on both sides of the ball, the ability to throw to someone down in the post who 2 years ago led the entire Atlantic 10 Conference in field goal percentage. So she's an efficient scorer, is able to finish well around the rim. And then on the defensive side, again, she brings that muscle. She brings that ability to go get a rebound for you. So really valuable on both sides. And like I mentioned at the start of the one-on-one with her, she was playing by far her best game of the year in that game against Virginia. Yeah. And she dives for a loose ball and she gets hurt, and it turns out it's a serious enough injury she's not able to play the rest of the way. It was a real bummer. It was starting to click, and to be honest, the game she had played through the month of November before that, it didn't seem like it was quite coming together for her in terms of blending in to what Mizzou was trying to do. Mm-hmm. And the switch flipped against Virginia, and 10 minutes into that game she gets hurt. So it was that kind of year, to be honest, for Mizzou women's basketball and for Ngalakulondi specifically. But if she gets back to the level where she was playing in that Virginia game, again, that's just a really valuable option down in the post that Mizzou didn't have last year.
Absolutely. So looking forward to her contributions and the contributions of a real newcomer. Yes, there are freshmen anymore in basketball. It's not all transfers from all sorts of different places, and one of them is from Houston, Texas, Cypress Springs High School. Listed as a 6-foot forward. Really interested in seeing how she develops. If you look at your roster, it will say Mariah, but she likes to be called Mo. So why don't we introduce you now with some good minutes with Mo Vincent.
Got a freshman with us now, Mo Vincent, joining us on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. First of all, first couple months here at Mizzou, how's it been for you so far?
It's been really good. I've learned a lot. Freshman coming into a mostly senior area, I think I've learned a lot about resilience and just talking, using my voice louder. Like, I used to think that I was, already loud, but they'll be like, Mo, you can give us more. So I've definitely gotten louder since I've been here.
And health-wise for you, coming off a knee injury your senior year, how's that progressing for you?
It's going really good. I'm on the back end of it, so, I'm just ready to play and start the season with them.
When you do get the opportunity to be out there, what can Tiger fans expect, your style of play?
Well, I really do everything, whether it's scoring the ball or playing defense and making assists, facilitating, rebounding. You can expect everything from me. I'm going to give everything I got.
Coming from the state of Texas, just tell folks a little bit about your background and how you ended up here at Mizzou.
Well, I came from a single-parent household. Shout out to my mommy. The environment we were in, it was very dog-eat-dog, so I feel like that's why I am the way I am today. My mom taught me a lot of lessons growing up through life and basketball, so that made me the person I am today. So, yeah.
What were some of those lessons that Mom taught you?
First, resilience, just to never back down. And even if I do fall down, I'm always going to get back up 10 times stronger. I feel like that went into me being the dog I am, always pushing. It's never too hard. I can always accomplish what I want to.
I'm trying to remember right. I believe you were the one who was the elite napper.
Oh,
yes.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah. The sleep is... It just when I get into bed, I just start laughing. It feels so good to be in bed.
That brings joy for
you.
you.
Yes, it brings joy.
So is there a specific duration nap wise that you're shooting for? Or
I like 2.5 hour naps.
That's pretty serious.
I think the other day I slept for 6 hours. So, it just depends on how much time I have.
Oh, those were the days back in college. I remember those. What about academic-wise? What are some early thoughts, anyway, of what you want to do in the classroom?
I'm majoring in sports law right now. After I retire from basketball, my hopes is to be a sports agent. So I just want to, have clients and market them, and so just stuff like that.
As you've gone through practices so far, who are some of the players, some of the veterans on the team who have been an influence to you and have kind of helped steer you the direction that the team wants you to go?
I think Abby Schreck, she's quiet most of the time, but when she does speak, it's very you need to listen. She has a good voice. Everything she says, her advice, the cues she gives is very beneficial. So I've learned a lot from her.
Is it interesting? It's interesting with Shrek because she's just a sophomore.
Right.
Is there some value to you as a freshman, someone who just went through this a year ago? Does that help you think?
I really don't think of it like that. I see everybody as equal, so I don't see any seniority or higher than. I feel like everybody has a voice, everybody can contribute, whatever we need to do to win.
What do you like about the style of play that this team is going to try to put out on the floor this season?
I see we're getting more into oh, wait, I can't spell that. I can't say that. Wait, can you repeat the question?
Oh, yeah, I wasn't trying to trying to spill state secrets or anything on that. Just in terms of practices, what have you? What's been the biggest adjustment for you in terms of high school practices to college practices?
Right. Well, college practice is 10 times faster, 10 times harder. They expect everything, nitpick everything. You could have did it 100% right. They're still going to talk about your toe was pointing the wrong way. So, but it's good. I feel very confident with the coach that we have. I think she's going to benefit us a lot just by picking at the small things.
And before that, even the off-season conditioning, I watched some of the work that you all were putting in and, flipping tractor tires or whatever those were and everything else. What was that experience like?
We had to push each other a lot, just be here for each other, encouraging. At the end of the day, everybody had to do their own work. But just knowing the team environment and everybody's going to be screaming your name and just making sure you push, that helped a lot.
What's the biggest key you think to this team having success this season?
Communication, for sure. If we don't talk, it's not going to work. We push that a lot in practice, just talking, even little things. We call it notifications. So just talking is going to be freaking huge for us.
Mo, thanks for your time. Good luck this season.
Of course. Thank you.
I know that you've had a chance to watch practice, Brad, so early impressions of what Mo Vincent's going to bring to the table.
Well, she hasn't been a ton out there in terms of the full practices. She had a knee injury in her high school senior year, so she's still not quite 100% all the way back. But I will say, just looking at her and talking with Coach Penston, the comp that she made was an Amber Smith type. And if you recall, Amber Smith kind of during the Sophie Cunningham era, for the most part, back in the teens, she was an SEC co-freshman of the year. A little bit undersized for a forward at this level at 6 feet tall, but she was able to use, the combination of power and skill to have a really successful career here. And so if Vincent can get to that level, obviously that's going to be a huge win, but they're excited about her. I'm guessing that my wife, it's going to be her favorite player because they're both high-level nappers. And so as Mo talked about in the interviews, so there's going to be a common connection there. But yeah, looking forward to seeing what she brings to this team. Maybe, again, a true freshman on a pretty veteran group, maybe it's not this year for Vincent, to be honest, but we'll see how that plays out.
That is a trait I think we all should aspire to. And for various reasons, most of us cannot achieve high-level napper.
I know, right? And I've gotten better as I've progressed, but I did have a flashback to my college days when she's like, oh, yeah, I knocked out a 2.5-hour nap the other day. And it's just, oh, man, to be young and have the time and stuff to knock out 2.5-hour naps, those were the days.
Oh, let's all be wistful. And we'll stop being wistful because we have one more to introduce you to. The 5'7" point. She might be the starting point for this women's basketball team. The grad student, originally a Houston Cougar out of North Little Rock, Arkansas, a Missouri Tiger that you'll be seeing a lot of this season. Let's spend some time with Demilah Brown.
5'7" grad student from North Little Rock. Initially, there were a stop or two along the way for Demilah Brown, but she's with us now on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. So last year, folks who follow college athletics closely might remember there were some stuff with eligibility and like certain players were eligible for a little while, then they might not have been, and there was a lot of confusion there. Long story short, you wind up not playing last year after transferring over from Houston. How challenging was that for you to not have that chance to be out on the floor for a whole year?
It was super challenging, especially like the deeper we got into the season. But what really helped me is just like having those teammates and just still being like directly involved in everything. Like I still practiced, I traveled, like I did everything normal. So I kind of felt like I was still, getting ready to play. I just would just sit and cheer. And so, but that also made it fun because I like to cheer on my teammates and we had a really good group. But, now I'm just excited that I finally am back at it. So
what aspects of your game were you able to work on in that year away from official action?
Everything, like behind the scenes, like it was individuals every day. I was lifting in the hotels with our strength coach. I was, lifting here when we would play and still doing everything as normal. And so I got to work on little aspects of my game that I wanted to tweak or fix in that time. And then being able to watch and take a step back from the game, I saw things that helped my game just by watching.
Well, fans got to see you briefly when you were at the University of Illinois, and you had a pretty good game against Mizzou, actually, if I remember, a couple of years back. But for folks that may not remember that, what are some things that Tiger fans can expect whenever you're out there on the floor?
I think just leading the team in that point guard spot and also, being a 3-level threat and just being able to make plays, whether it's putting the ball in the hole or setting my teammates up for a great shot or a good shot. And so I think that's what we can look forward to and just the energy and passion that I bring to the game as well.
Demilah Brown is our guest here on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. As for this year's group, I mean, you've got people like, Mama Dembele and Haley Frank who have since moved on. But as you look at this year's group and the newcomers that have arrived now, what stands out to you about this year's team?
Just how the difference in what everybody brings. It's like everybody brings something different and really great to this team. I know we had Laniah here. She brings like incredible rebounding presence and she's just like a dog on defense. And we have the, the returners who bring what they bring. Averi's back. She brings just like quickness and, we all stand out in different ways and we're able to play faster and we're able to do things that we maybe weren't able to do last year. And so, it's just really a lot of growth and a lot of, new things that you guys are going to see from us.
What stands out about this year's team to me, just from watching some of the early practices, is that last year's group, after the injury to Averi and there were the eligibility weird stuff that was going on with your situation, there was really a shortage of potential ball handlers. And I look now at this year's team and I see you, and I see you mentioned Averi Kroenke's back. Nia Wilson is transferred in from New Mexico. London Oliphant is a freshman who might have her chance this season coming up to just, and Abby Shrek had to play point guard by fire. So do you feel like this team's going to have a lot more lead guard options beyond just you even?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's, what I was getting at, too. We have a lot of threats. And so, like, there's not just one person that can play this position. We have multiple people who can step out and do this. Like, I can step out, me, Nia, all of us, we can step out and be the 2 guard or the point guard. So, we just have, like, just so many different things that everybody brings that can just really build this team up.
When I talked to you last year, you were saying you were a pretty good Call of Duty player.
Yes.
Are you still? Is that still your video game of choice, or have you evolved a little bit?
It is. It's still my video game of choice. I can't get into the sports video games. I'm terrible at them. I don't know. I don't know what to do about that.
Why not?
I don't know what to do about that.
Not even like NBA 2K? You can't?
Terrible. Leave that to my brothers.
Fair enough. So you mentioned your brothers. You mentioned previously they've been a pretty big influence on your life. Is that still the case?
Oh, yeah, 100%. My little brother, he's 15 now, so he's just now learning, and I'm helping him and guiding him through, everything that it takes to be an athlete. And my older brother, he's still just like, the manager of me and, helps me with everything that I need and just making me the best player that I can be on and off the court. So.
Well, you've already got 1 degree from Mizzou last May. What's your academic focus these days?
Yes, I am getting my master's in sports marketing. So my focus is just, getting that accelerated so I can, complete it this year and get my master's degree and hopefully, do something different wherever the future takes me.
Well, besides sports video games, a future in sports looks very bright for you, including on the court coming up this season.
Yes.
Thanks a lot for your time and good luck to you.
Thank you so much.
That's Delilah Brown.
Tiger fans, say aloha to Hawaiian Bros, where the island-inspired flavors are positively delicious. You'll love favorites like huli huli chicken, luau pig, and the delectable Dole soft serve. Hawaiian Bros, just south of campus on Grindstone Parkway, or order at hawaiianbros.com.
Again, here's another chance to leave an impact. It might not be for a very long time, but it could be a really good time for Delilah Brown if she's able to run the show in the way that Coach P and company hope she can.
This is someone that we saw a couple of years ago also on one of her many college stops along the way when she was at Illinois, and she had a lot of success scoring the ball against Mizzou, and then last season, just like I mentioned during the interview, just some that if you'll recall, it was during basketball season when the NCAA announced, oh yeah, this whole transfer deal, we can't crack down on you, but it was such a gray area, and even if Mizzou did decide, all right, let's let her play, it wouldn't have been a full year. So it wouldn't have necessarily been fair to her because she wouldn't have gotten the maximum opportunity to play the games of her final year of college ball. But I had a chance to watch her. Like she mentioned, she was out there and practicing with the team, traveling with the team, and she would go through the practices on site for road games too, and just a really skilled player. She has an ability to score at a lot of different ways, for herself and also for her teammates. So someone who's a talent, and again, it's going to be a different dimension. I mean, Mama Dembele obviously was very successful for Mizzou, among the SEC leaders in steals per game and assists per game. But in terms of that offensive ability to create shots for herself and others, that's something that Delilah is going to be able to do that maybe Mizzou fans didn't see a lot. Someone we didn't get a chance to talk to, Nia Wilson, who's a New Mexico transfer, who I think is also going to see some minutes at a ball handling spot and maybe even at an off guard spot too. Maybe Wilson and Brown together against certain teams. It's just going to be different at the point guard spot, and I think it's going to be a fun brand of ball.
Yeah, we all get to see coming up. Officially on the 4th and not so officially the 29th.
29th, you got it.
Yeah, I sometimes I remember things you told me just a few minutes ago in that exhibition. We hope that you all enjoy it across the Central Bank Tiger Network as Brad has the call for an umpteenth season.
Man,
getting old, man.
Year number 13, hard to believe. Really excited, and Kathy Wiesen will be back with me for her 12th year calling the games, and we're always excited to talk ball. So we're definitely looking forward to having that. If you're in the Mid-Missouri area, it'll be on our flagship KTGR. If you're outside of there, you can listen to it for free on the Varsity Network app.
All right, and of course there are other things you will maybe want to listen to on that app and across the network. One of which would be Mizzou football. Listen, Texas A&M was every bit as bad as it looked to you if you watched it, or every bit as bad as it sounded if you heard us across the Central Bank Tiger Network. It was bad. And I don't think that the Tigers this week and Coach Drinkwitz and others are sugarcoating that, but I think something Coach Drinkwitz said about that loss in College Station is eminently true. Your season begins and is defined by how you respond to getting kicked in the teeth like that. Because if you go out and you win the remainder of your games, let's say that that's something Missouri can do, or even if you stumble once along the way, that might be enough. We were reminded very much that college football is college football and you can't predict it. And just when you think you know, you don't have any idea. It was a massive day of upsets all across the spectrum. I will say that Missouri probably has a little bit more work to do in the eyes of some of the folks who make these rankings and maybe the people on the college football committee, because their loss was a blowout loss. And it was one in which Texas A&M was a superior team from whistle to whistle. I don't think that there's any sugarcoating that. But how you respond and how you improve over the stretch run of the season while picking up wins will determine what you can make the season into. And because it is 12-team playoff season, this one game is not going to define the whole thing in a manner that it might have in previous seasons.
You know, it's funny, I will push back a little bit on how much this will hurt Mizzou in the eyes of the committee, only because when the committee sets this field, it's going to be almost 2 months from now. I mean, the reality is that the attention span just isn't going to necessarily be there for that game was bad.
But the final score is the final score.
Sure,
like, that's what I'm saying. Because no matter which team is in which place, that is almost irrelevant. The fact of the matter is, if you stuck those two on the board next to each other or near each other, Texas A&M and Missouri, that score is going to stick out. It is what it is, and you can't take that away.
Oh, it ain't good. Yeah, that for sure, it's not good. And if Texas A&M finishes with the same record as Mizzou, then yeah, it's going to be really hard to justify putting Mizzou in over the Aggies, no matter how the rest of the season plays out. But I think what you said is absolutely right, that everything is still in front of this team, and especially in this 12-team playoff era, everything is still in front of this team. 5 of the top 11 in last week's AP poll lost, and while Mizzou's loss might have been the worst just in terms of how Mizzou looked on the field, it was the best in the sense that at least it was a ranked team. Texas A&M was number 25. All these other losses were to unranked teams. And then you throw Miami in there, that it was almost 6 out of 11. Miami had to come back from a 25-point deficit.
Two weeks in a row, that team should have lost a game and did not. And sometimes the team is just charmed. We'll see if someone else can do it to Miami. Maybe they can't. But that's the team out of the ACC that I think a lot of folks who watch college football intently said, hey, that's a team that can compete for the whole thing. And boy, if that's a team that can compete for the whole thing, and they've had 2 close brushes in the manner that they have, that's no sterling guarantee that they're going to come out of this thing unscathed either. And across the SEC, for that matter. I mean, we've got the Red River game coming up this weekend, right? Texas still has to play Georgia. Every team in the Southeastern Conference could end up with multiple losses this season. That is not far-fetched. And if that's the case, you better hope that your victories are good enough to put you above some of the others that are across the league.
It's really fascinating how this year is going to play out. And maybe it's because of the expanded conferences that you've got more of these heavyweight matchups. Maybe that's the reason why it looks like, I mean, if I were to guess right now, I'd put the number at maybe one Power 4 team that finishes undefeated, maybe one, and I don't know, and maybe and honestly, I would say it would not be the SEC because of the reasons you just mentioned. Yeah. I would guess if I had to pick one team to finish undefeated, I would pick the Ohio State-Oregon winner out of the Power 4 schools. But whoever wins that still has a lot of hard games still to come for them, including the Big Ten championship game. So that's a long way of me saying that everybody's going to have a week, maybe not as bad as Mizzou had, but everyone's going to have a week where it just didn't look right. And I mean, Oregon's another example. They've looked not at peak Oregon levels in terms of offensively anyway so far this season. So I mean, everyone's going through it. We're obviously a Mizzou focused podcast. If you're listening to this, you're probably a Mizzou focused sports consumer. So it feels like the end of the world. The reality is that Mizzou still has the opportunity to get back into it. Can Mizzou seize that opportunity, respond to the adversity they've faced this past Saturday? That's the question we're still going to wait for an answer on.
Yeah, 100%. And, we'll find out together just what the rest of this season becomes, but the chance remains there. And so that's why we'll follow it with great intent. It starts with UMass. To be honest, I won't have a lot to break down about UMass because this week is so much about what Missouri does regarding Missouri that the opponent in a week like this, after you got beat like that, and I wouldn't care if they got beat like that and they were going into the Alabama Crimson Tide. This week is about Missouri and what Missouri does amongst itself, and you let the chips fall where they may from there. I think it's fortunate that it would stand to reason that if Missouri takes care of its business, that they'll look pretty good against the Minutemen. But you don't know. Like, go out there and do your business your way, and this is what this week is all about.
Yeah, I agree with you. I will say, just looking at some of the numbers, ones that popped out to me, UMass is in the bottom 10 in the nation in terms of tackles for loss, sacks, tackles for loss allowed, and sacks allowed. And one of the things that was maybe most disappointing for Mizzou in that loss against Texas A&M is that it just felt like on both lines of scrimmage, Texas A&M was able to dominate. Mm-hmm. And if the reality is Mizzou is not going to be able to get through the rest of an SEC schedule with less than a loss, one loss or fewer, unless they're able to at least be competitive up front. So maybe it's a chance for both lines of scrimmage to get right against a UMass team that has struggled to both generate big plays defensively and keep other defenses from doing it.
Very possible indeed. A lot of stuff going on around Mizzou Athletics over the course of the weekend. Softball and baseball, both in various exhibitions. The softballers on Thursday night playing against Kaskaskia. I hope that they can defeat the River as they face them in Columbia. That was good that you got that joke. Maybe nobody else gets the Kaskaskia River joke.
It's an objectively fun name to say.
It is a fun name to say, that's right. Soccer's against Ole Miss at home on Thursday night. Volleyball will be in action at home on Sunday for sure. Are they home on Friday?
It's a start of a 4-match homestand, which is a big stretch. We don't have the result as we're recording this of the match against SEMO on Wednesday night of this week, and then it's a couple SEC games to round out the week. Alabama on Friday night, and then a Tennessee team that's receiving votes in the top 25 at home on Sunday. So an opportunity to pad the record. You've got good teams, but they're at home. Kentucky, they've been at or near the top of the SEC in terms of volleyball for most years now recently. Didn't go the way you wanted in Lexington. You got a chance to bounce back here with these multiple home games in a row.
Yeah, absolutely. The golf teams are in full swing. Yuck, yuck, yuck. As we record this, the women just finished up in Lawrence, right? They had a pretty good run in Lawrence.
They did. They finished second out of 13 teams in the Sunflower Showdown. Of course, they lost to the one team you don't want to lose to, but it's the home course for that school to the west, so we'll forgive them. But a good showing overall for women's golf. Swim and dive, they're actually at Arkansas coming up on Saturday morning of this week. So you mentioned softball hosting Kaskaskia on Thursday of this week. Again, we don't have the result of that as we're recording it. Also hosting Illinois in another exhibition coming up on Saturday afternoon if you're not able to get out there on Thursday for that.
Yeah, and away we go, basically.
And also, one more thing to throw in there, some big news for Mizzou Gymnastics. Helen Hu returning for one more season. You might remember that name when she had a big breakout. She was the SEC Event Specialist of the Year in 2021. She was a second-team All-American in 2023. Dealt with some injuries, spent last year backpacking in Europe and Asia, and now is a fine addition to a team that finished 11th in the nation last season. So pretty cool to have her back. And I'm gonna put this out right now. We will be making an interview request for Helen Hu because I want to talk about backpacking through various continents and then deciding, let's give this gymnastics thing one more go.
Yeah, we talked with her a few years ago actually on the podcast, and now would be a really great chance to have her back. And I think for the gymnastics team, from a team structure standpoint, you remember the beam queens of a couple of seasons ago. They struggled on beam really relative to their expectations last year. What was Helen Hu, the SEC Specialist of the Year, in? Balance beam. And she's got an all-time high of a 9.975 on that apparatus, and she comes into a scoring environment that very well could give her first 10 in beam this season. I don't want to put that expectation on her. I don't think you can ever say, you expect perfection, but the way that sport is scored now, you almost have to have it every once in a while. and she's capable of it. She's going to give a big boost to the team all around, but especially on the balance beam, and that's going to be a big strengthener for Shannon Welker's squad this year.
And so you add her. They've got some high-quality transfers they're excited about. The freshman class looks pretty good. You've got some returners like, Titar Soli, who was a transfer in last year, who's a bars specialist, who I believe banked a 10 at one point this past year. So, there's a lot of reasons for optimism with the way Mizzou gymnastics has been trending the last couple of years.
Onwards and upwards and higher scores. We look forward to seeing them on the apparati very, very shortly. Is that what we say? We're at an institution of higher learning. Is it apparati?
I have no idea, but I'm good with it. I'm fine.
All right, we'll claim that, and then someone will come and slap us on the wrists for it later. I don't think we're actually forgetting anything this week. We might be good.
I think we covered a decent amount of it for sure. So, women's tennis, ITA regional championships in Memphis this week. So good luck to the folks that are participating in that. But
we don't know any results right now.
Again, busy time of year, so a lot of different sports in action, or like women's basketball, they're preparing for action that's coming up really soon.
Yeah, and men's basketball interviews, as Brad mentioned, coming soon here on the podcast. At least that's the plan. So we look forward to bringing those to you, as we look forward to bringing you each and every episode. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Brad Trinago.
Yeah, thank you, man,
for doing all the hard work. I just sit here and foam at the mouth sometimes. We'll speak to you next time here on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast.